Good.
For each property.
Okay. Good evening, everybody, and welcome to this regular planning board meeting on January 23rd, 2025. Madam Secretary, can you please take roll?
Ms. Parker, absent. Mr. Katsaf?
Here.
Mr. Lilly, absent. Mr. Heidman?
Here.
Mr. Kamudi?
Here.
Mr. Deal?
Here.
Councilman Roman?
Absent.
Deputy Manager O'Sullivan?
Here.
Mayor Tamburo?
Here.
Vice Chair Freshy?
Here.
Chair Pearson?
Here.
Board Attorney Massara?
Here.
Zoning Officer Kathleen Nietzsche? Here. And I'm here.
All right. Wonderful. Can everybody stand and join me for the Pledge of Allegiance? I pledge allegiance
To the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Thank you. Can you please read the Open Public Meeting Act?
The notice requirements of the Open Public Meetings Act have been satisfied with respect to the meetings of the Township of Verona Planning Board, which is being held in person in the ballroom of the Verona Community Center located at 880 Bloomfield Avenue, Verona. The time and date of this meeting were included in the annual meeting notice posted in the community center and sent to the official newspaper of the township, the Verona Cedar Grove Times, at least 48 hours preceding the start time of this meeting. The agenda and instructions on how to comment will be provided at the appropriate time. All meetings are recorded. Those wishing to speak during any public comment period should only provide their name and municipality. Street addresses are not required. Please be advised that should a member of the public choose to state their address, it will not be redacted from this recording.
Thank you. At this time, I will open public participation for anybody that would like to make a comment or ask a question. Yeah. Oh, yeah. If seeing none, I will close public participation. Thank you. Has everybody, we're moving on to approval of minutes. Has everybody that was present at the October 22nd, 2024 meeting received and read through the meeting minutes?
I'll move.
Okay.
I'll move them. Second.
Mayor Tamburo moves them, Vice Chair Fresky seconds. All members that were at the meeting on that date, please vote to approve.
Aye. Aye.
We have, okay, anybody that does not approve and anybody who needs to abstain.
I'm abstaining.
I am abstaining.
Okay, so we have two abstentions. And three? Three abstentions. The motion, the minutes pass. We don't have a consistency determination this evening. We do have two resolutions. Resolution 2025-01, appointing, resolution appointing Caitlin Kester as secretary to the planning board. Can I get a motion to appoint Caitlin as our secretary?
Motion.
Mr.
Second.
Hyman makes a motion, seconded by the mayor. Roll call.
Mr. Katsaf?
Yes.
Mr. Lilly?
No.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Mr. Kamudi?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Councilman Roman, absent. Deputy Manager O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Tamburo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freshy?
Yes.
Chair Pearson?
Yes. Motion passes. Second is to appoint appointment of our professional planner, who happens to be here this evening, in Resolution 2025-02. Can I get a motion to appoint Sam?
So moved.
Doc moves,
Second.
seconded by Mr. Hyman. Can we get a roll call, please?
Mr. Katsas?
Yes.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Mr. Kamudi?
Yes.
Mr. Deal?
Yes.
Deputy Manager Sullivan?
Yes.
Mayor Tamburello?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freshy?
Yes.
Chair Pearson?
Yes. Motion passes.
Thank you,
Um,
everyone.
Oh, thank you. Next on the agenda, we don't necessarily have a subcommittee update, but I would like the deputy manager, Mr. O'Sullivan, to give a quick wrap on what goes on with our affordable housing, because that's what we're working on. So please.
Sure. At the mayor and council meeting Monday evening, the council passed a resolution on the fourth round declaratory number for the fourth round of affordable housing requirement. That was a resolution that was required to be passed by January 31st. The council consulted with the affordable housing planner, and there was an adjustment made from the initial prospective need of 173 units presented by the DCA. There was parcels that were omitted from the state's calculation due to some state level data not matching up with local Rossi and open space data by the township. So we did take an adjustment to a prospective need of 149 units. At this time, we have until the end of February for to let a period of time pass for potential objectors to file objections. We will begin meeting with the master plan subcommittee to review the next steps that are before the planning board at this point.
Okay, yeah, and we're meeting, sorry. We have a master plan subcommittee meeting on February 5th, at which time we'll, we're also working on the element. So some of the necessary data coming in from the decisions of the council need to be plugged into the element, but I'm hoping that that element is underway and getting written as we speak so that the subcommittee has something to read and a draft to chew on soon.
Right. Just to kind of further what the resolution that was passed by the mayor and council, the process allows the township to make further adjustments on that adopted development need based upon vacant land analysis, and there was additional language within the resolution which identifies that based upon a current vacant land analysis, the township believes that the prospective need is it could potentially be reduced as low as 66. There is a floor minimum of 25% of our 149 unit prospective need, but at this point, the township would be in, and planning board would be in the next phase of continuing to assess that vacant land analysis and all of the tools that are available to the township during this next phase.
Okay. Does anybody have any questions for the deputy manager, soon to be the manager?
I'm really just recalling lately, but isn't there some like planned legislation that might affect the affordable housing and sort of reinstate some sort of or administrative unit and take it out of the courts?
That's last March is what we're working on now.
This is what we're working on now?
The legislation is out.
Okay, so then this is in response to it?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Any other questions? Okay. If there, seeing no questions, then we can, thank you so much.
I'm sorry, I didn't have a question.
Okay.
So the 149 units, and you're saying that there's a potential based on open space or whatever other variables there might be for it to be reduced to 66?
So
Big difference.
the prospective need for the township is 149 units. The realistic development potential is going to be based upon a number of factors, one of which be consideration of a vacant land analysis. Based upon vacant land that is available for development within the township. So there is an assessment that the township will continue to be going through with our affordable housing planner and affordable housing council with the master plan subcommittee, and we will be reviewing what that realistic development potential should be for our housing element. It cannot be less than 25% of our prospective need, so it cannot be less than 25% of the 149 units that we've declared. Currently, based upon vacant land analysis that's been underway by the affordable housing planner, we do believe it is currently at 66, but that is a work in process, in progress, and we'll continue to work with planner, affordable housing council, and the planning board in reviewing that as part of our housing element.
Thank you.
If there are no further questions, we can get on to new business. And I would like to hand the meeting over to San. This is a preliminary investigation to determine if Block 708, Lot 1, also known as 383 Bloomfield Avenue, but it goes by 377 Bloomfield Avenue sometimes, qualifies for designation as a non-condemnation area in need of redevelopment in accordance with NJSA 40A:12A dot blah, blah, blah. Resolution 2024-147 was sent to us by the Verona Town Council asking us to undertake a review of this property. So with that, thank you, San, and please show us the way.
Thank you, everybody. You can hear me, right? So,
Can you move your mic a little closer?
okay.
Thank you.
And I thought I was a loud mouth. So good evening, everyone. So before we begin, I'd just like to give you some background information. So this area in need of redevelopment investigation, it is governed by what we call the LRHL, which is the Local Redevelopment and Housing Law. And to quote our board chair, NJSA 48, blah, blah, blah. So why does one do redevelopment? So one does redevelopment.
Excuse me, Sam.
Yes.
Can you introduce your
I have to.
your colleague, please? No, can you introduce your colleague, please?
Oh, yes. This is Lidza Casamajor, staff planner at H2M.
Thank you.
Pleasure to meet you all.
We just want to say it's nice for her to be here. It's nice to see her. You just didn't give us that chance.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'm going straight to business. Why does one do redevelopment? So when conventional zoning doesn't bring out revitalization, redevelopment is a tool that the state has given us. And the goal of that is to stimulate change, have economic development. It's a proactive process. You develop a vision for your community or areas in your community, and it allows us to prepare what we call as a redevelopment plan, which although it's a plan, it's not really what we did 2 years ago, a master plan. This is more, I would say, an amalgamation of a master plan and a ordinance. But it allows you to prepare a redevelopment plan, which also allows more flexibility. Municipality has better control of development outcomes. And also this statute offers the municipality an opportunity to grant, say, long-term tax abatements, negotiate development priorities, construction phasing, improvements, dedications, etc. And this is just generic information, nothing to do with what we are doing this evening, just to give you all a background. So as Madam Chair said, the governing body adopted Resolution 2024-147 that authorized the study and mandated that any area, redevelopment area designation would be non-condemnation. It's required by law to have that declared when you write the resolution. Now, what that means is that there will be no eminent domain or involuntary takings. So any interested developer would need to negotiate with property owners. So what is the redevelopment process? So first, the township committee has the authority and they authorize a planning board by resolution to conduct the area need study, so which is the resolution we've been talking about. And then the planning board or the consultant conducts the study to determine if the area meets the statutory criteria, which is the H2M report. And then we are at the third step where at a duly noticed planning board hearing, and they have all these requirements, 2 notices, 10 days prior, and they have the first one has to be at a separate on a separate week. We've conducted all of that, and here we are today to present this. Now, based on how this evening goes, the planning board makes a recommendation to the governing body to designate or not the study area. But I want everyone to keep in mind that this is not subjective. The redevelopment investigations I need to provide evidentiary support, and everything is everything has to relate to the specific criteria, which I will discuss as we move along. Then the governing body can either accept your recommendation or may even reject your recommendation. But if they do accept your recommendation, then the council can designate the redevelopment area by resolution. So the redevelopment process it's a 3-step process, and we are in step 1, which is conducting the area in need of redevelopment study. The next phase would be once it gets designated, as I mentioned in the prior slide, then you can prepare and adopt a redevelopment plan. And then should that happen, the third step is a redeveloper or, either there'll be a redeveloper or work with the existing property owners to actually implement that plan. And the role that you would have as a planning board would be typical, where somebody, as per the zoning ordinance, comes with a site plan approval. It's pretty much the same thing, and that's how the plan gets implemented. So now going back to the study area, everybody's familiar with it. It's the Hillcrest Farms property, which is identified as block 708 lot 1. It contains an area of approximately 1.26 acres. It's a corner lot at the southeast corner of Bloomfield Avenue and Park Avenue. And it's interesting if you look at the site, and I walked it a few times, there's a gradual drop in the grade from the northeast corner, which is which is near the apartment complex, and goes downwards in the southwest corner near the edge of the property on Park Avenue. And the uses in the proximity, everybody's familiar with it, but I just want to, for record, mention what's around it, is a typical combination of multifamily residential to the south, single family to the east, commercial to the north and the west along Bloomfield Avenue. So, and the land uses, or what the zoning is, it is in the township's ETC extended town center zone, and the surrounding zones are TC zone to the west and northwest, ETC to the north, which is in pink. The R50 single family zone to the west, which is in that shade of light green. It's yellowish green. And what's in orange are the multifamily A1 to the east and south. So next is, I will like to repeat, and I know I did a similar presentation 7 months ago, but I want to refresh everyone's memory that this is what the redevelopment criteria is. So there are 8 criterion as per the LRHL, as per the redevelopment law, and I'm just going to summarize it. So the way the statutes read is, for any property to be designated or qualified to be designated as an area in need of redevelopment, they need to satisfy just one criterion. And they are as follows. So criterion A, which is you look at the buildings, if they have deteriorated or fallen into a state of disrepair, that people cannot inhabit them. That's one criterion. The second one is vacant or abandoned commercial and industrial buildings or conditions that have made them fall into disrepair. The third criterion is land that is owned by either public agencies or vacant unimproved land that has remained so for 10 years. The fourth is areas with buildings and improvements that are dilapidated, obsolete, overcrowded, faulty arrangement, deleterious land uses. Criterion E is what they call conditions of title and ownership. So basically, there's a growing lack or total lack of proper utilization, which is caused by multiple diverse ownership, condition of titles, property tax liens, or what have you, which impede land assemblage or discourage the undertaking of improvements, resulting in a stagnant and unproductive condition of land. F is any land over 5 acres that has been destroyed due to farm, storm, cyclone, the buildings or the properties therein, that then they satisfy that criterion. Criterion G is very specific. Any enterprise zones that have been designated as such as per the New Jersey Urban Enterprise Zones Act. The final one, what we call a smart growth planning, it's designation of the delineated area, which is consistent with smart growth planning principles. Now, this criterion by itself has no standing. But it can be used with any one from A to G. So, but it's still there in the statutes, and nobody uses it because how are you going to have enough evidence regarding that, right? So, anyway. So, typical to these studies, we did a master plan analysis. You know, everybody's familiar with the master plan and some of the goals and recommendations that are that apply to this area, which was written in the master plan, was promoting growth in appropriate areas that meet current and future land use trends, to ensure zoning district regulations and land uses aligned with the township's development goals, and continue to ensure Bloomfield Avenue is a vibrant and attractive downtown, and to maintain attractive and thriving businesses and commercial districts. So we also looked at the state plan, which again, it doesn't have much weightage, but it's a guiding document. And one of the things is, as I mentioned, the smart growth. You look at smart growth based on areas that are designated by the state plan, and the study area is in a PA1 area, which is a location that is consistent with the smart growth planning principles. And the intent of this area is to provide for much of the state's future redevelopment, revitalization, and promoting growth. And the State Development and Redevelopment Plan of 2025, which hasn't been officially adopted yet, also has similar goals and to revitalize and recenter the state's underutilized developed areas and to promote economic growth that benefits all residents. So we did a study area analysis, and this area is already designated as an area in need of rehabilitation. It's located on the main Bloomfield Avenue corridor. It's within the ETC zone, and it borders the TC zone. So it's kind of like the area sort of links the two zones together, and it's kind of a gateway into the TC zone. And the redevelopment designation, as I mentioned, is aligned with the township's planning goals. We also looked at, when you look at smart growth, you also want to look at what are the transportation options. And we've studied this extensively during our master plan process, but just to remind everyone that it's a corner lot, which is bounded by the eastbound side of Bloomfield Avenue, which is a county roadway that connects multiple municipalities in Essex County. Also, public transportation is provided via the New Jersey Transit 29 line, which has stops along Bloomfield, and also it's around half a mile away from the New Jersey Transit 11 bus stop, which is located at the corner of Pompton and Claremont. So in a redevelopment plan, we begin by conducting a property analysis. So what does one do? You look at tax maps, assessment, request the township to provide us with assessment records. We look at accident reports, any crime data, fire department, code violations, and I've mentioned all of that. We look at the DEP, known contaminated sites information. We look at obviously the zoning plan and zoning ordinance. So that's, and then the most important thing also is to conduct a field visit. So we conducted a field visit on September 11, 2024. That's where all the photographs were taken. So it's not snow clad as it's today. So again, this is block 708, lot 1. So it contains that principal structure, which is that barn-like structure, which is located in the northwesterly corner along Bloomfield. And the front half of the building is characterized by an asphalt parking lot, which surrounds the building. It pretty much covers the majority of the property. And to the rear of the commercial building, attached to it is a large greenhouse, which is used to display plants and other garden products. And then the rear half of the building is, rear half of the property, is characterized by gravel and bare soil ground cover and contains several accessory structures. And I've tried to cover all of them in my report, and I will be sharing a few during this presentation. There's also a one-story, 5-door garage. It's used for storage of contractor materials and chemicals. And then the parking lot in the front of the property has 3 ingress and egress points along Bloomfield Avenue. There's an access drive in front of the garage, the 5-car garage that leads to Park Avenue. And the rear yard contains around 4 standalone greenhouses and 1 wooden story building with an attached greenhouse, a large trailer, a small wood frame, and so on and so forth. So again, we analyzed it, looked at all the records, and it's my professional opinion that this meets criterion D. And it's difficult to tell unless you walk the site, right? Because if you look at it from Bloomfield Avenue, it pretty much, you see an attractive barn building, but as you move in, that's when you see challenges with the site design. And in this case, this criterion focuses on site improvements and addresses how the site functions in terms of the layout and overall design. And in general, properties that meet this criterion are being used in a manner which is not consistent with modern land use planning standards and practices. So these are a few photographs, and the one to the top left is, as I mentioned earlier, when you come in from Bloomfield, there are 3 ingress and egress points which are not really clearly defined, but this picture shows the 2 egress points. There's no signage indicating the direction of circulation. The parking is pretty haphazard, it's undefined, and there's no differentiation between the access drive and the parking spaces. And typically with, when you have large, I would say, products coming in, loading area is pretty essential. And when you look at the bottom left, this was when we went on site, saw a tractor trailer parked outside, which kind of sort of blocks the ingress and egress. So basically there's no separate loading area for delivery vehicles on the property. And then the bottom right shows the ingress and egress point along Park Avenue, which again, the driveway begins in the parking lot that is accessed from Bloomfield and then turns around and meets Park Avenue. So The image to the top left is the view of the third ingress and egress point along Bloomfield Avenue. And this access drive and parking area is on the eastern side of the large wood pergola that splits the front parking lot into two. Again, these parking spaces are undefined, and the top right view is the view of the property from Park Avenue. It's from the rear of the stand-alone planned display area with the wood trellis. It's looking towards Park Avenue, and the driveway to the right, just right here, that leads back to here, this driveway. And the bottom right is a photo, bottom left, sorry, is a photo of the ingress-egress along Park Avenue. And to the right is the view of the rear yard with the glass greenhouse and a 5-door garage that I just mentioned, which is to the back of the main barn building. And if you look, and it's probably clearer in the report, but this goes into the backyard, which contains an assortment of greenhouses, a shed, a trailer, storage materials, etc., etc. This is the first picture to the left. As you can see, it's behind the parked cars looking towards Park Avenue. And then on the other side, so behind that garage, is the view that you see in the photo to the top right. It looks towards the southeasterly portion of the rear property where I've mentioned there was an assortment of greenhouses, greenhouses, sheds, trailer, etc. And if this is a clearer view to the bottom left of the rear portion of the garage, where you'd see there's construction debris, and then a little further down, it's just like vehicles are just parked randomly, and it shows basically open storage debris and cars parked and pellets, I believe, on this side. If you look at this is the greenhouse, which has been around for a pretty long time, and it shows visible signs of deterioration. The view of the glass panel to the east, this is all to the just south of that pergola that we saw, and it also shows the shed I was talking about right here, and the greenhouses in the rear portion, and portion of that parking lot which is proximate to the greenhouse, it shows signs of decline with cracked pavement, potholes. So now this is the rear of the wood frame building, and this is to the all the way to the back is the rear property line, and this basically shows how just the green, how it's like it's everything is in a decrepit condition, informal storage of building materials, gardening materials, accumulation of dirt, and just overall lack of maintenance. This is a view of the southwestern corner, which is the lowest point from the highest, which is along Bloomfield Avenue. And it appears that, I tried to capture this, but it appears that the water has eroded a channel into the gravel and soil over time. There's, to the bottom right, you'll see there's just one stormwater drain on the property, which is partially obscured by junk and equipment. And based on a discussion with the property owner, this area floods periodically due to insufficient drainage. These are more views of the greenhouse in the southwestern corner, and again, it's a consistent theme of trash and equipment stored on the side. Bottom left is a view towards the southeasterly portion of the property, which shows the two greenhouses in the background, and it's again strewn with debris. Same here to the bottom right, which is the view towards the southerly property line, showing the area between the three greenhouses to the rear. So all these photos show the view of a one-story wood frame building with attached greenhouse to the rear, which you can see in the bottom left partially, and you can see on the top right as well. And, on site visit, we had conversations with the property owner and who let us know that the structure is one of the original ones on the property and predates many of the existing structure. It had significant deterioration. The wooden shingle siding is warped and rotting. The roof of the structure seems to be sagging. The exterior paint has peeled to expose bare wood. The window panes are, as you can see, are either missing or boarded up. And again, wooden pallets, junk, and equipment have been improperly stored around it. As you go further, the rear of the wood frame building also shows lack of maintenance and improperly stored materials, vehicles. A boat is parked in front of a trailer along the easterly side property line. And then the grassy area to the rear of the structure is overgrown, which is top middle. The top right shows the trailer, which is located to the almost along the easterly property line. It's to the almost to the rear of the property, and it's set back based on just our, when we went on site visit, about 2 feet from the property line, and is in a derelict condition. The roof has collapsed below middle, and animal traps indicate that perhaps rodents or raccoons may be an issue in this part of the property. So based on discussion with the property owner, it appears that this trailer has been on the property since 1985 and they continue to use it as storage. So finally, what is the redevelopment criterion? So the review of the existing conditions as depicted in the photographs helps support the determination that the study area is eligible to satisfy the D criterion due to the obsolescence in building and site design. And as I mentioned earlier, that this criterion focuses on the accessory buildings as well as site improvements and addresses how the site functions in terms of layout and overall design. And more specifically, this condition was satisfied due to the deterioration of the structures on the property, the obsolescence of the site layout, poor site circulation, the deleterious land use, overcrowding, and excessive coverage. Now, although the principal structure is in a good condition, the rest of the property, which is really the majority of the property, and the accessory structures there are in a poor condition and exhibit a lack of maintenance. And the site and accessory buildings have ongoing maintenance issues, which, it's evident through these photographs and based on examining them on our field visit. So those are the reasons why it's my professional opinion that it meets the D criterion. But it also meets the H criterion because it's in a PA1 area, which is, as per the state plan, area allocated for redevelopment. And so it has those attributes which will permit this kind of smart growth development that is advocated by the state plan. And it's my professional opinion that redevelopment of this area is necessary to correct the concerns of safety, welfare, and the detriment posed to the safety and health of the community. So in conclusion, I would recommend to the board to designate the property as an area in need of redevelopment, a non-condemnation area in need of development. And that's it from me. Thank you.
Thank you, San. I would like to open it up to any questions that the board may have. We've been through this before, so I think you guys are getting good at this. I do have one question.
Sure.
Just about the contents of the 2 550-gallon underground storage tanks.
Mm-hmm.
I understand that the tanks are going to be removed.
That is correct.
I know that this is getting ahead of things, but just out of curiosity, was it discussed whether any testing had happened to make sure that the tanks didn't have leaks?
We didn't discuss testing per se, I don't recall.
Okay.
But I do know that we had, and I want to make it a point that I really appreciated how forthcoming the owner was, because, you know, when you've been doing this for a while, you know, one big thought that comes is, oh, let's check if it's a known contaminated site, or let's look at the DEP data. And we found nothing.
Right.
So that's why we were very curious. You know, I wanted to be as thorough as possible. So I reached out to the owner and I asked them that, do you have underground storage? Because typically that's what happens with these older uses.
Yeah.
And he mentioned that, yes, we do. And our goal is to get that out as soon as, you know, once they get into the redevelopment process. And I think they will have to do their due diligence.
Of
They will
course.
have to, and you know this, that when there's something like that, they have to have an LSRP. So
Yep.
that's a part that's you know, the state requires us to do all of that. So, you know, they call it like phase 1 assessment or what have you. So.
Okay, thank you. I was just curious to know if any other further information came out about that.
No.
Okay. All good. Any other questions?
Yes, I have a couple questions.
Sure.
You mentioned flooding and the excessive impervious coverage. When you spoke to the owner during storm events, is there significant surface runoff going off the property?
I don't know on the top of my head. I am sorry.
And then you mentioned the block drainage. You said there was only one storm drain on
Yes,
site.
and right, there was just one on the southwestern, you know, the end where it, near the apartment complex, it's along Park Avenue. So we actually walked the site to see that.
Right.
And it's very natural if you look at even the contours, right?
Mm-hmm.
It slopes from the southeast, which is on Bloomfield Avenue near the apartment complex, all the way towards Park Avenue. So it's a gradual slope, which is very visible when you walk the site.
Mhm. And then your report mentioned you did a comprehensive review of the records and pulled the police records for it. Were you able to glean any details with respect to all of those events that were logged by Verona PD? You know, a lot of them were traffic incidents. Were
They
there
were-
any
right.
related to on-site? Because I do know circulation there is an issue, especially when it gets busy. Is there any
Not that I
record
know
of
of. No.
issues?
We were looking for that actually, but we didn't. They were, and I have it, I think I have it written, what all there were. They were just, yeah, there wasn't an accident.
Mhm.
But that doesn't mean it won't happen.
No, I understand.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm pretty sure everybody's been there, especially when it's busy. It is.
Right, I think
It's a very difficult site to navigate.
it definitely is,
Just
and
curious if the records have kind of borne out our own personal experiences on the site.
so there, you know, and I just want to also clarify one thing that, you know, typically when we do these redevelopment investigations, we go just go back to like 5 years.
Right.
We don't go back beyond. So who knows?
Mhm. And then lastly, you mentioned environmental contamination. Can you just, and you know, you did speak about the chemicals on site and the tanks, but aside from that, with your conversations with the owner, can you give a little bit more detail about what the environmental risks are with respect to
We
the
didn't,
ongoing
so I want to
operations?
make it clear, I didn't ask him what the risk was, because that would be hearsay, right? The only reason why I even contacted the property owner was because I couldn't find anything in the KCE, data miner. So I was just curious, like, do you not have underground storage tanks? Because it's been, and that's when he came forthcoming. And neither am I an LSRP, and nor is this, so it's somebody does a report, it's this, as you say, secondary information that we review. So I just wanted to add that to understand that, from our end, we try to vet this very thoroughly.
Thank you.
Saying the structure in the northwest corner, the like house barn, I mean, I think it's relatively new. And can you just make any comments on some of the details of that structure?
I'm sorry?
The structure in the northwest corner of the
The
property.
barn.
The barn.
It's relatively new. So we didn't, and that's why I wrote that structure would not qualify at all as it does not qualify, but that's a small portion of the site. The rest of the site qualifies.
So if it doesn't qualify, then it wouldn't be included in the plan?
The plan has got nothing to do with this. Let me go back to the criterion that I was speaking about. Bear with me for a second. So when we do an investigation, right, we look at the buildings. So it doesn't satisfy criterion A because the barn is in a good condition. Now, had the barn been in a bad condition or there were some deterioration there, then it would have satisfied criteria A as well as criteria D. So, I don't know if I'm making myself clear. Do you want more information?
So I guess I want to understand is that if the barn is not, right, it's in good condition, how does that get factored into whatever's done at that site?
It does, it gets factored into the overall, the evaluation of the overall site. So in my opinion, because of one newer structure that's not in a dilapidated condition or doesn't, in a sense, on its own meet the criteria, you're looking at that lot as a whole. So it's not like it would be carved out and couldn't be touched or anything like that. You're looking at, in this case, we're just doing an analysis of one property. So,
and the whole point is to look at it in holistically, right? And I forgot to mention this too, and I've written that in the report. It doesn't matter if one structure doesn't qualify, the whole site does. And the redevelopment law also very clearly states, and I put that in, I think, what is it? One of the pages, but that it's section 3 of the redevelopment law. I remember that a redevelopment area may include land, buildings, or improvement which of themselves are not detrimental, but to the public health, safety, but the inclusion of which within the redevelopment area is found necessary with or without changing the condition for the effective redevelopment of the area of which they are part. So in simple words, as Greg said, that, first you look at it holistically, and just because there's one structure, one small structure in 1.26 acres, it's probably like a 5,000 square foot area. That by itself may not qualify, but that it doesn't disqualify that, and having that as a part of the redevelopment area pretty much is necessary to have effective redevelopment.
I'd like to make a comment.
Sure.
I walked on the property in the end of this past summer, and to say that some of it looks like a dump would be very kind. It definitely is an area in need of redevelopment. Whether you have one structure that's like the building that they do most of the selling from, that's in pretty good shape. The rest of the property is, I just can't believe it got to this, that it got run down to this point.
Are we on comments or questions?
Question, if you have questions, if you have a comment, you can add a comment instead, and then we'll move on.
Okay, I mean, if we're going to deliberate after we're getting some questions across.
Yeah, we're going to deliberate. If there are more questions, if there are no more questions, then Tim, would you like to add a comment for the board to consider?
Yeah,
There you go.
there you go, thanks, yeah. Thank you, Sean. I will say, as much as this was thorough and, you know, I agree with other pieces of your work, I find that your statement that this is an area of need of redevelopment is very much a reach, and I'm not in the least convinced that this property is in need. And I hope to even convince the board that that is the case, and that, in fact, I think this property, at least on the, as far as the business, its use, and from the outside, I'll quote you, you know, from the outside, it doesn't look so bad, has a certain bit of charm and adds to the personality, and keeps a bit of history and charm to the town, as well as a reprieve from all the development that we're doing here. I think, you know, you said yourself the primary structure's in good repair. It's the main, you know, it's the building that stands out most. I know, you know, the lit rotunda, or the, you know, with the weather vane is, you know, something I see, and, you know, actually I like seeing it as I come up and down the avenue. Again, you said you wouldn't know it from the outside. So part of D, yes, there are dilapidated structures, but, you know, the full language of D says that are detrimental to the safety, health, morals, or welfare of the community. You are pointing them out, you know, but some things say, like the overgrown vegetation, the undefined parking, you know, that's a day with a can of paint and a roller and a weed whacker, and that is something that can be cleaned up. As far as all the other structures, the property owner, you know, is on the, you know, should take better care of it, but it's not a, you know, a harm to the welfare. In fact, the traffic and whatnot, it is a, you know, as I understand, a thriving business. So it certainly would be even more traffic if it was run over and replaced with a 3-story, you know, condo with 80 units. The statement that this is a non-condemnation says, you know, that the property owner, you know, has negotiation rights. Am I correct?
Yes.
So where's the property owner tonight to either say, yeah, I agree, you know, I'd like to hear from them. I don't have them here.
Well, there's a representative here, but I'm not sure what you're,
Oh, I'm saying, you know, if, you know, something would sway me differently is if the property owner agreed that this is an area of need of redevelopment. And if so, is that because is there, you know?
I can tell you the property owner does agree that it's an area in need of redevelopment. As San had said, you know, cooperated with San as San did the study. There is counsel here for the property owner.
Okay.
But that's not really a criteria. The condemnation is just a part of the statute that if the governing body decides that the condemnation power will not be included, then that simply has to be determined in the beginning.
Right.
Because then a property owner, oftentimes we do areas in need of redevelopment for multiple properties.
Right.
And it might be 6 of the 7 property owners, if we did 7, might want an area to be designated an area in need of redevelopment. The 7th owner might not. If that's the case, then if condemnation is left as an option, then you could condemn that property owner's property in order to construct whatever on all 7 lots contiguous or whatever. It's not an issue here, so it's
Right.
Right.
Okay, no, that's good. And to that extent, there might be incentive for, and I don't, blame a property owner for, if there's incentive to sell and this helps the cause to hop on that. So then I will take it actually, in your guidance here of like on the merit on its own. And so aside from, sloppy on the accessory structures, which I would say are not inappropriate. It's a Hillcrest Farms. It's a garden store. We expect a certain amount of, like a barn or a rural setting.
Have you walked it?
I bought my Christmas tree there.
No, have you walked the site?
I've not walked the whole site.
Right. If you.
You have the right to walk the site when it's under consideration, and you probably could have gotten a free tour too.
Sure.
But I'm just saying, I think the pictures were pretty well representative, but it's different when you walk it. It becomes, those buildings are entrenched on that site. They've been there some of them since the 50s.
Sure.
If not before that. So we're talking 75 years. Some of those greenhouses. I think that's something that one little piece is missing from your overall opinion here, is that you didn't go look for yourself.
Okay,
And
yeah.
you're the guy that usually does that. So I'm kind of surprised, but
Yeah. I missed this one. So then, at the face value of this, which, Greg, do I need to walk a site?
No,
to
I
get
think,
full picture?
I mean, no, because I think there's other criteria too, Tim, like, Sam talked about smart growth principles.
Yeah.
Right now, and that was, I think, criteria H, like right now you have a garden center that is not in great shape in the extended town center. And it's not really consistent with our master plan, nor is it consistent with smart growth principles. So if you agree with that, then that is enough for you to say, okay, it meets the criteria. We're not here to say whether you like it or not.
Of course.
Right, and you've always been, totally, right down the middle and open-minded and everything else.
Yep.
So it's not just, it's not dilapidated. It's, well, wait a minute, smart growth, or what does our master plan say? And is there a better opportunity there for something else?
And allow me, to, remain consistent.
Right.
Thank you for
Yeah.
pointing that out. And I will say, smart growth is being, selective. I see a value to this property
Okay.
as it is, as a reprieve to all the other work that we're doing. It's a break in essentially the buildup. And I don't see it as a public harm on D. I get it, and I will walk it after the fact and either lament or stand by it, but I want you all to consider, the thoughtfulness here.
May I recommend you walk
thank-
it and walk along the southern property line, the eastern property line, and you will understand. It's my license on the line when I read these studies, so I have to be very thorough. I can't just try to reach, as a professional, if I feel this doesn't meet the criteria, no matter what Verona or the property owner wants to pay me, I wouldn't, because my integrity and my ability as a planner is on the line, and it is not subjective.
I respect, my dissent is with all respect to the thoroughness of your work. Apparently I have a good reputation with Greg, and that is on the line here, and I want to keep that. So, no, I mean it. I'm, that's it's my take on this as a member of this board. And I've made my piece. Thank you.
thank you. Any other comments from any of the other members?
I mean, maybe to build on Tim's comment around the harms. Around the harms or the whatever. For example, you listen to the trailer that's there and that's been there for quite a long time. Couldn't the owners just have removed that trailer and improved the property on their own?
I'm sorry, what? I don't understand.
So Tim was talking about how, he doesn't feel that there's like a substantial harms or damage based on the criteria for D. And so we're saying that there's several dilapidated structures beyond their useful life on the property, right? So you pointed to the greenhouses, you pointed to the trailers. So to kind of build on what Tim is saying, for example, the trailer, the owners could have removed that, right? They didn't have to leave it there. So, like, isn't that like a self-inflicted harm?
I wouldn't call it a self-inflicted harm. And when we are supposed to do these studies, we don't go into why it's not removed, or we look at what's existing and how, based on the criteria, it doesn't satisfy. Now, the trailer, if I'm not mistaken, has been around since, I think, 1985. It's been around. And you'll see many properties in the state which satisfy this criteria have had redevelopment are properties that are slowly deteriorating. So could they have done that 20 years ago, 30 years ago? Probably. So could have many other property owners, but people don't. And that is why the state has this kind of a criteria for us to basically bring an underutilized property back into the tax rolls and make it viable. So, we are speculating they could have done this or the other, and I don't mean it in a disrespectful fashion. I understand your question, but I would say that they could have done many things, but they don't, as many properties in the state don't. So,
Jeremy, your question is a great question if there's a variance application. A self-imposed hardship is something that a board shouldn't consider. If this were an application seeking, an applicant seeking variance relief, and, the house is in disrepair, and, I want to be able to make the house, beautify the house, but oh, by the way, I need to, add a mother-daughter, that's something that the board wouldn't consider. Here, this is from the perspective is from the municipality's eyes. So it's what is best for the municipality. The impact on the property owner is really not even secondary. It really should not be considered,
Okay.
Right.
That's fine.
So what would happen if we would, if the board doesn't agree with the assessment? Let's just say that, what are the options?
There is no options. I mean, this is pursuant to the statute. The board's sole role here is to determine whether the area, in this case, the one lot, meets the criteria as an area in need of redevelopment, as Stan had gone through. It would be up to the property owner then to seek variance relief or to seek a zoning change or something like that, if in fact the board found it doesn't meet the criteria.
Can I, just to add to that, the board is making a recommendation to the council in this. Is it the final say, or the council can therein ignore a negative recommendation?
No, the board has to meet the
consistent?
criteria. The governing body cannot overrule the
Okay.
board in this situation.
the governing body, even if you find this as an area in need, and you make a recommendation, please designate. The final word is with the governing body.
Right, but if we don't recommend, then
That
it
is
can't.
correct, then they
It has to
can't.
be upon the
That
recommendation
is
of the
correct.
planning board.
That is correct.
Otherwise, the study would be, meaningless. If the board does not report to the governing body, then the governing body can act. But if the board reports negatively, then the governing body cannot go forward with the redevelopment plan.
And most importantly, it is very much dependent on the evidence, which is the photographs, and it's not just you cherry pick one or the other. It's you look at it holistically, collectively. So I continue to reiterate, it's my professional opinion that this meets criterion D.
So just to go a little bit further, so if we vote that it doesn't meet the criteria, then based on the zoning, what are the options for the owner without variance?
Whatever the permitted uses are in the extended town center. I don't know what they are, they're itemized in the zoning code.
Yeah. Section 1.
And that goes back to the point I made earlier, that redevelopment is a tool that the state has given us when conventional zoning doesn't work. And in many cases, it doesn't work. And it's very likely even in this particular case. So.
In all of this discussion, I understand some of the sticking points that certain board members have brought up. We made a similar determination on a different site that had a great deal of pavement and oddly placed buildings a few months ago. And it wasn't, the business that had been there, an aluminum company, had already closed. And so I guess my worry here is that you're enamored with the use on the site more than looking at the site. Look, we all are. It's kind of like our hometown place where, everybody in Verona goes. So, but the use of the site, even though it's listed in here, I understand that. Don't
Yeah, no, I
jump.
got you.
Don't jump.
Good. I won't put that in.
I understand that, and it's not saying that the use is obsolete or obsolescent. You have to read that it's one of the possibilities that may exist on the site. But that being said, I think that what you've pointed to is that it's charming and we don't want it to change. And I understand that and I feel that too, believe me. But that doesn't mean that there's a standard that has to be upheld and a factual question being put to you. Sentimentality kind of has to take the backseat. And that's unfortunate, but this is not as subjective as, say, a site plan approval, where there could be things about it that you just don't like and you can't vote yes. There are things about this that you don't like, but there's a few things that are categorically true. And that's so anyway, that's all I'm going to say.
Can we unpack that a little bit?
Yeah,
A little?
I mean, I don't want to get into an argument with you, Tim.
not at all. No,
And I really don't want to, but I'm telling you that there are, if you read through D, you can see that there's excessive land coverage, deleterious land use. If you look in the back of the property, which you haven't yet done, an obsolete layout, any combination of these factors.
Yes.
And I'm just saying, and with the smart growth thing, that is true. It's along the avenue, there's a bus route, and I'm just saying that these things are met. And at the last meeting where we were determining this, I did ask Greg if if there was anything subjective about this, if I didn't like it, could I vote no? And he looked at me and shook his head no. Just because you don't like something, in this particular case, you cannot vote no. I don't know if you remember that.
I remember.
But he told me I
I've
couldn't.
asked the same thing.
So
Madam
I'm
Chair,
done.
I will take and check my feelings as I've done before on these Ds and Hs and to make sure it's not sentiment and I'm comparing the two that, Mr. Diol has in going over them. And I think I voted yes on that one and I agree with it. As much as, by the way, I find that aluminum building, it's mid-century modern, it's very charming. But, all the rest in the mag is truly hits it, and there is no real use for that. So, enough on my side.
I figured I'd throw my 2 cents in. The first is I agree with Sam's assessment of both D and H. And it's important to note that the property owner has signaled their desire to develop this property and change what is currently on the property, right? So it's not going to remain a garden center in any way, no matter what this board does. They would have the ability to do something within the permitted uses of the property. I think that when you have this as an area in need of redevelopment, this invites a redevelopment plan for the site, and that benefits the municipality as well, in that it gives the municipality the opportunity to really collaborate with the property owner to have something there that is a use that is beneficial to both the town and the property owner. And this actually provides us a lot more leeway to have something on what is a prominent parcel of land at that intersection that I sit at every morning for 2 minutes because it's the longest traffic light in Verona. It is. It just is the longest traffic light in Verona. And it does, that redevelopment plan does give us more latitude to do this, and you can use other properties that we have approved, this board and the council over the years have approved, because those sites tend to be the ones that are more fitting the community's needs, whereas properties that were not part of redevelopment plan have gone to litigation, and often have not been the kinds of properties that we would like to see in this town, that are the most consistent with the character that we would like to see. So I think when we look at the best interests of the municipality, and this certainly falls into that redevelopment, in addition to, and I think that goes into the H piece that Sam brought up, is what do we want the growth in our town to look like? And this allows us to collaborate with the property owner on that and really do it in a smart manner, rather than simply the property being turned over to a retail institution that may buy the property and put an ugly, the retail building on the corner with a parking lot. It's could be something that we really, don't want there. This would provide that opportunity. So I appreciate you hearing my thoughts, but it is in the best interest of the municipality that we declare this an area needed redevelopment.
Thank you.
Madam Chairman, I have a correction. I just checked the statute, and
The council can overturn.
it appears that the count, now, I'm not, I've never participated in any procedure where this happened, but the statute is a little ambiguous, but basically does not prevent the governing body from ignoring the recommendation of the planning board. I mean, that would be a governing body issue, I think, that, they'd have to consider, but I was wrong in
Okay.
what I said.
Thank you.
Okay.
That was almost like a Fonzie moment where Greg
I
just
was
admitted
wrong.
he was wrong. All right, that shows my age. Our age. We're like the only two people
I mean,
laughing.
I can't believe,
I did too.
I know who Fonzie is, yeah, I got it.
I did too.
Okay.
I'm old too.
I think the people that agree have made their point, and the people that are iffy and maybe don't agree have made their point. So I think if there's no further ado, I think we can call for a vote, and a motion, actually. So, Mr. Massara,
yes.
if somebody was to make a motion to find this property meets D and G, H, I added one, and may be considered as an area in need of redevelopment.
Well, the motion would be to recommend to the governing body
council.
that the area meets the criteria of an area in need of redevelopment, and more specifically because of
D and H.
G and H. Right.
So would somebody like to make that motion that Greg just said?
I will make that motion.
Okay.
Excuse me.
Can I get a second?
I'll second.
The mayor seconds. Can we have a roll call vote?
Mr. Katsaf?
Yes.
Mr. Hyman?
Yes.
Mr. Kamudi?
No.
Mr. Dield?
Yes,
Deputy Manager O'Sullivan?
Yes.
Mr. Tamburo?
Yes.
Vice Chair Freshy?
Yes.
Chair Pearson?
Yes. The motion passes. Mr. Massara,
Yes.
can you please work with Caitlin to draft a resolution on just a memorialization, so that at the next meeting, we can just pass that and sign?
But we will, prior to that, formally notify
The
the governing
council.
body in writing.
A memo.
Of the determination.
Yes, so we can send the governing body a memo
Right.
via email to the mayor, Jen, Mr. Massara, and of course, the manager.
Greg, do you want me to write it or?
Ma'am?
Do you want me to write it or who's going to write the memo?
You're offering?
I'm happy to write it. We'll do it. That's fine.
Yeah, I just want to be sure.
Yeah, no, that's fine.
Before we close, real quick question for the manager. I'm just going to call you the manager. I'm done. What is the potential schedule for us to be updating the system in here so as to be able to bring a Zoom meeting in live and all of that stuff? Do you have any idea? Brief. You could say 6
Right.
months from now.
We're including that in the budget in
Mhm.
2025. That'll be one of the recommendations. There are some offsetting monies that the township expects to help reduce the cost burden for the township. So through that process, it could be a 6-month window, potentially longer. There's some budgetary timing that we have to line up first.
We would have had another member here tonight if there was the possibility for that person to Zoom in. He just didn't want to get everyone else sick. So, but he texted me and asked.
There's some,
They do it at other,
I know, but
different
there are
municipalities.
certain requirements that before we do that, we'll have to make sure we follow.
Okay.
Because then you have the public, and whether the public is invited by Zoom. So if you're
Okay.
opening up to Zoom, we just have to make sure we comply. I can't tell you off the top of my head
Okay.
what they are.
Motion to adjourn.
Yeah, good. Done. Thank you very much, Sam.
You're welcome. And thank you all for appointing us. Aye. Aye. I don't know. We never vote on it. Everyone votes yes.
No, I want to say, he wants to go over one more time.
One more.
That's an easy one.
Oh, okay.
Hey, Sam, did you your first one? Please.